down that camera and strap in. It's time for a new episode of TogChat Live. Get ready for 60 minutes of wall-to-wall photography, including photo news, tips, and your photography questions in real time, with answers from your host, Olympus visionary Joe Edelman.
That's me. Hey gang, thanks for joining me for another live episode of TogChat. As always, I'm your host, Joe Edelman, and my mission is to help photographers like you to develop a solid understanding of the hows and whys behind great photography. Before we get going, come on, do me a solid. I need all of you. Take a moment and please tell your photography friends that we're streaming live right now on YouTube. As always, Facebook, Twitter, those are the fastest ways to get the word out. You can go ahead and click that share button underneath the video, or you can click the link that I am posting into the chat window right now to let people know. Just be sure to come back as soon as you share the information. And as always, we've got a lot of photographers tuning in from all over the world. So please check in, leave a comment, let me know you're here. It is always awesome to see where people are here from. I've got Alan in Denmark, Lizette in Texas. I've got Pierluigi in Italy. We've even got Lynn up in New York and William in Ottawa, Canada, and Doug Thompson in Washoe Valley, Nevada, which is a fancy word for Reno. And we've got Caleb in Austin and John in England. Misha is here from Switzerland, so it's cool. This is a worldwide audience that we are talking to here tonight. And of course, please be sure to start posting your questions, post your comments. I will do my best, as always, to answer all of them in the 90-minute, 1-hour program that we have tonight. And if you've been here before, that made complete sense, right? All right, gang. So we're going to dig right in tonight because I think tonight should be a fun topic. I really do. Oh, wait, you know what? I forgot something. Right out of the box, I forgot something. So I promised you guys that whenever I'm working on stuff, I give you guys a little sneak peek. So if you follow me on Instagram, which, doggone it, you're supposed to be following me on Instagram. So hopefully that's the case. And if you're not, make sure that you are, checking in on the Instagram thing here. There's the Instagram link, okay? But if you've been following me and if you watch my Instagram stories, I'm playing around with kind of a new idea, and it's a DIY of sorts. It's not the cheapest DIY that I've ever done for sure, okay? But for people that like lots of unique backgrounds, for people that hate the idea of spending a lot of money like on a fancy printed background, and then you use it a couple times and it's like, okay, been there, done that, I've already used it. If you're one of those people, then this DIY idea that I am working on is actually a huge, huge money saver. So just to give you a preview, I'm going to keep you waiting until next week to explain how it really works and what it's all about. But I'll give you a preview of kind of the first 2 images that I did with it here, okay? And the first one, you see it here in black and white. I'll bring it all the way up on the screen. And just so we're clear, this shot that you're looking at right now, guys, this is not a composite shot. This is straight out of the camera that you are looking at, okay? So there's no gimmickry, no fancy Photoshop, no putting stuff together. Nope, that is straight up a composite. And then the second one I'll show you here, I'll bring it up on, whoops, that's the wrong picture. It's this one. There's the one that we want right there. There we go. It's this shot right here. And again, straight out of the camera. No Photoshop gimmickry, nothing, no compositing. That is exactly the way that the image was shot, okay? So that's my current project. Make sure that, of course, you are subscribed on YouTube because there is going to be a video about how I'm doing it. And also kind of talking about the, cost effectiveness of it depending on what you shoot and how you like to shoot. And on Instagram, there will also be, a couple posts with some swipes showing you the behind the scenes, showing you the lighting diagrams, all that good stuff. So please make sure that you are following along with that, right? So tonight's topic. You guys know that I'm not a huge fan. So listen closely because I don't want to be misquoted here. I want to be really clear. I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the stuff that eats up a lot of energy on some of the photo blogs. And I want to be clear, like I am a fan of f-stoppers that you see on my screen here. I am a fan of Petapixel. I am a fan of DIYphotography.net. And I completely understand, in their defense, they need page views, right? They make money based on serving up ads, and completely understandable. They've got to get people to come to the website. They've got to get people to spend time there, and they've got to get people to read the article so that they can serve ads, so that they can continue to provide us the good stuff. I would also propose that part of the challenge is, in the photography world, there's only so much real news. And then it's a matter of how much learning content can actually be developed. What are people putting out? So oftentimes there are articles on all three of these websites. So I'm not singling out anybody, and I've just made it clear. I understand, they've got to keep traffic coming. There are articles that I call them therapy for neurotic photographers. It's like how to feel better about what you're doing. So maybe I'm old school, but I don't find a lot of value in that. I really, really don't. I'm a big believer in, if you are not feeling motivated about your photography, then go do something else. That ought to tell you something, right? It's not up to somebody else to motivate you. If you're not motivated to want to pick up a camera, if you're not motivated to want to take pictures, well then, what the heck? You need somebody to stroke your ego and pat your back and make you feel good about things? Sorry, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm just being honest. But that's kind of my thought process. So, all these articles about, wow, yeah, here's how you feel better, get yourself motivated. I'm not into that. But I respect the websites that print them. So this article came past my screen. I think it was yesterday I saw it for the first time. And it got, that kind of Joe response of there's another one. And I happened to click into it because I will, frequently check them out, because I would love about those kind of self-help articles. I would love to be wrong and at some point feel like, hey, there's really something of value here that's not just kind of stroking somebody's neuroses, okay? And I thought this was going to be one of those articles. And when I started reading through it, I realized that it's kind of framed that way. And again, I mean, no disrespect to the author or F-Stoppers. They're a great website. They put out lots of awesome material. But what I found when I got there, I was like, oh, this is awesome, because it's actually a list. And it's unfortunate that the 29 points are not attributed to specific photographers, because I honestly think that some of it would carry a little bit more weight if it were, because I have a feeling that some of these comments came from some potentially rather well-known and very respected photographers along the way. But certainly, if it was actually attributed, I think that there might be a little bit more kind of oomph behind how people, perceived it. But as I read through these things, I realized that these are some really, really solid pieces of just simple, old school advice, okay? So what I wanted to do tonight was essentially translate, if you will. I wanted to go through the list, and by all means, feel free to weigh in with your opinions. So this is a rare situation where Joe is giving you permission. Share your opinions. Go ahead, all right? But keep it polite, keep it productive. In other words, an opinion just for opinion's sake, I have no patience for. But if you want to give me an opinion about one of these points and provide some context and be productive with it, I would love to read what you have to say, and I'll share it with folks and we'll talk about it. So as I went through these, I started to realize that really what I was reading were some really, really good pieces of advice. So I want to go ahead here and I'm going to switch the screen over. I want to put these questions actually into the screen, all right, so that you guys can see them. So this is the article on F-Stoppers and all. And by the way, in all fairness, again, you guys might want to pull this up on your screen. So the link is in the description below the video, and I have just shared a link to it in the chat window. So if you want to, put me in the background, that's quite all right. You don't need to stare at me, right? You can go ahead and you can open up the page, and we'll kind of go along together as we chat. So they're unpopular opinions from current industry professionals who are remaining anonymous. But I'm willing to put a face to these comments and talk about them. So hopefully some other people will too, because I think there's actually a lot of value here. So number one on their list, 99% of photography schools schools and degrees are a ripoff. So I kind of wish this one wasn't first because, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to really irritate a lot of people and businesses right out of the box. But I completely agree. If I'm going to be generous and try to leave a little way in, maybe not 99%, but we'll rephrase that to a very high percentage. Now, let me pause, right? When we say degrees and ripoffs, let's break that down a little bit and give it context because, let's face it, that statement as written and as stated, as I read it, it's almost somewhat, libelous and that towards, various schools. So let me be clear what my perspective on that is. So number one, let's talk about degrees. In all of my entire career, which unfortunately is now over 40 some years, I have never, not once, had a prospective client or a client ask me, where did you get your degree? In fact, I have had it come up not more than a handful of times after I've been working with a client for a while and was just having casual, personal conversation. Since I knew that client, only a handful of times, 2 hands maybe, 10, has it come up where the person has asked that question. And when I've explained what my learning path was, resoundingly, overwhelmingly, it was met with, that's amazing. I wish I could have learned my career that way. So the degree part, let's just say it's not necessarily a ripoff, but it's not necessary. Your clients don't care. And this applies, let me be clear. I make part of my income by teaching to PPA groups. You know that this past year I spoke at Imaging USA. I'm going to be speaking with a PPA group this Saturday in Syracuse, New York. A couple weeks ago, I was at a PPA group in Vermont. I think PPA is an outstanding organization, but I am not a PPA master photographer. I won't go for the degree. I don't feel that it has value from a business perspective, potentially from an educational perspective, depending on where you're at in the learning curve when you join. But now, the whole idea of schools, are the schools a ripoff? Most of them aren't ripoffs. They mean well. And in their defense, they provide you what they promise. Where the problem comes in, so many of these schools for photography, and I'm talking both the brick and mortar ones and the online ones, they're very similar to the way scam modeling agencies work. And when I say scam, let me be clear, I'm not using the word in a legal sense because both businesses, these modeling agencies that I'm about to talk about, and these schools, they stay within the boundaries of the law. They offer service, provide a service. The reason why the word scam gets used around them is because what they don't do is they don't do a good job of properly managing you, the client, the customer, managing your expectations. They allow you to think that more is going to happen than what is likely to happen. The other problem that schools have, especially colleges, right? Kids today coming out of grade school, they want to be photographers. They think that they are going to have to, go to college, get a degree in order to be able to go ahead and get a good job, right? So they pick a college that has a photography major, and then they go through 4 years of college, rack up an incredible amount of debt, and they graduate realizing that they don't know squat about how to be a professional photographer. Now, I'm not going to name any schools, but I can tell you factually, intimate knowledge, a college that is local to me has a photography major. And I guarantee you that if we were to poll the incoming class of students next year that will be starting their first classes in that major about what they would like to do as photographers when they leave that school, the overwhelming majority of them will mention some form of photography that involves photographing people. Maybe it's portraits, maybe it's weddings, maybe it's documentary, maybe it's photojournalism, any of those things. And yet, the classes in this school, not a one of them, not a one, involves studio lighting or photographing people. In fact, while they do have digital photography classes, most of their classes are film-centric, taught by professors that have never been professional photographers. They are professors that have MFAs, a Master of Fine Arts. So what they learn, or what these kids learn, is they learn how to shoot black and white film. They learn how to develop black and white film. And ironically, in this particular school, in their digital 101 class, their first digital class, which by the way, in their program, it's an advanced class. It's not a first year level class, it's a second level class. 4 weeks out of the 10-week semester, 15-week semester, excuse me, 4 weeks require, in a digital 101, require the students to shoot film, scan the negatives, and then work on them in Photoshop. So the challenge that colleges have, it's very, very expensive with the technology leapfrogging itself as fast as it is. It's expensive for them to keep up, and it's difficult for them to keep up because number one, a college professor puts a lot of money and a lot of years into either getting a PhD or in the case of an art school, an MFA, a Master of Fine Arts. Once they come out of school, they're under no obligation to continue learning. We hope that most of them do. And let me be clear, many of them, probably the majority of them, do their best to keep learning technology as it continues. But the fact of the matter is, their MFA program was in all likelihood focused on fine arts, not digital photography and not photographing people. So they don't even have a background in that. And then as the technology advances, they may or they may not keep up with it. And the problem that they have is, as the technology advances far enough, the schools don't have the budget and don't prioritize photography in the arts high enough to keep the gear and the equipment updated. The school that I was mentioning, in fact, the iMacs that they use are the original iMacs, you know, the ones that are kind of the very flat ones, the big ones, not the old iMacs, but you know, the silver ones and that. These things are like coming up on 10 years old. And that's what they're still using. So the kids have a very, very hard time you know, being able to work on larger files, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, it's a big circle where you can't really point the finger at any one piece of it, unfortunately. It's a systematic problem. So I wanted to touch on base on that one. Obviously, it's number one, but I want to make it clear. It's not that these schools are a ripoff. Hey, they're trying to cheat you. In most cases, they're actually doing the best that they can, but the system is highly flawed. The college system's terribly flawed. Tenure is a process that needs to go away, in my opinion. I know those of you that are college professors, you're going to hate me. Sorry, but I'm married to one, so relax. I have this debate and it doesn't sit well, okay? But ironically, she agrees with me. The tenure system either needs to go away or it needs to be changed dramatically to include more accountability and more methods of measurement. So you mix human nature in with the cost of technology, the rapid speed at which technology is advancing, and the disconnect of a traditional MFA program with what's really going on in the world and what are actually usable skills, then it's a problem. And, you know, by the way, when we talk in schools, if we're talking about a student that's going to go to college at, Zombie Sniper, that's Trevor, 18 minutes installed, number one, 4 hour and 60-minute show. It could be. We may have to do this as a 3-parter. We'll see. But, you know, the challenge with colleges, especially a liberal arts college, also understand that a liberal arts college is not worried or structured to prepare you for a job. That's not what the liberal arts is. Liberal arts colleges are becoming more and more aware that they have to be more job and career focused, but talk to any professor or any administrator in the liberal arts, and the answer is, no, our job is to make you a more well-rounded human being. Well, that and $100,000 or $150,000 in many cases just puts you in debt. It doesn't really do you much for a career, right? So, bottom line, I don't disagree with that statement. I would maybe change the verbiage to soften it a little bit, but I don't disagree with number one. Number two, some of these are going to go quick, Trevor, I promise, okay? Medium format cameras are completely overhyped. You almost always produce better quality images with full frame with the right lenses. My answer to that is really short. Can we just shut the heck up about sensor size? So my one-word answer is followed by, go away, right? So number 3, shooting film in the digital age is a photographic masturbation. It may be self-gratifying, but it doesn't do anything else for anyone. Doesn't do anything for anyone else. I got to be honest, I agree. But my version of that, and you folks have heard me say it, don't use 4-letter words. Remember what your mama taught you. Film, 4-letter word. That's all I got to say. Look, I'm glad I learned on film, but here's why I'm glad I learned on film. It's not for the reasons that most people are of the attitude that, hey, look, if you're really going to learn, if you're really going to be a photographer, you should learn on film. I used to think that way, and I was wrong. So I'll give you the quick explanation. Number 1, I'm glad I learned on film for one reason and one reason only. It forced discipline and patience. Starting with the idea that you take pictures and then you had to wait 7 days to find out that you really suck at what you do. That was a hard way to deal with things. But even when I started doing my own developing, right, there was a process. It took time, which made you think about things. You would take pictures and then you had to wait. Even if you're going to develop them yourself, you had downtime. So it allowed you to reflect on what you had done and think through your process. Think about what went well, what didn't do good or didn't go well, because you didn't have that instant gratification that you have now. So the reason why I'm glad I learned on film is because of the discipline. In the early 2000s, even the early part of the 2010s, I was indeed one of those photographers who would have argued, if you're really going to learn photography, you should go and learn how to do film. And I finally came to the realization it's not about the film. It's about the discipline. So if you can be disciplined and right from the get-go, do the right things to really pay attention to what you're doing, to really learn from your own experiences, not just from YouTube, not from some classroom or some book or Google, but to really learn from your own experiences. If you have that discipline, then hell no, you don't need film. You absolutely don't. So where I find the film thing hysterical is the hipster mentality of, hey, I shoot film, so I'm hot stuff. Like, who gives a damn? There are photographers, ironically, out there, and it's not because of the film, it's because they're good at marketing. They are charging a premium to shoot film for weddings. And because they market it properly, people buy into it and they spend extra money for it. At the end of the day, people don't care. It's not like you're saving the environment by shooting film, right? So there's no, bigger cause behind shooting film. Your clients don't care. They simply don't care. So yes, I completely agree with number 3. Number 4, you guys know my response on this one, right? Those artist signatures that people pay for are overpriced squiggles and they all look the same. Use a pen, make a nice signature and scan it. If you scribble like an infant, then that's just the mark you get to make in the world. So I don't disagree. I don't agree. The bottom line is stop with the signatures, period. Forget the damn watermarks. Watermarks are ridiculous. The biggest and most famous photographers in the world are not putting watermarks in their images. That might tell you something, okay? It simply might. But I do disagree with the idea that if your signature sucks, you should use it even though it sucks. My signature is horrendous. It is chicken scratch. So even when I sign digital documents electronically, I have a signature that I had written for me. It's not one of those fancy ones that you pay tons of money for, but I have a signature that I had written for me so that my name is actually legible and people can understand what I've written if I'm going to do a digital signature, okay? Number 5, most photographers call it fashion when the subject is wearing clothes, any clothes. This could not be truer, and it's very true. So let's get something clear. I'll give you an example of an experience I had just this past week, and I will not name the young lady's name, but I photographed a young girl who is wanting to get into modeling. She's 5'3". She's not going to become a professional model, and certainly not a fashion model. But I used her for a shoot for some stuff that I'm going to put on YouTube. So it was a chance for her to get in front of the camera and have some fun, right? So I told her, I said, okay, and I've done this with every model that I worked with in the last 20 years when I was doing their portfolios. I would say to them, okay, you want to do fashion? That's cool. So we're going to do 2 fashion looks for you. I want you to put your outfits together. But remember, we want fashion. We don't want Macy's, Nordstrom's, Saks, right off the rack. We want fashion. And I say it like that really as a test to see if they understand what that means. And believe me, most photographers fail at that miserably. Fashion is not a pretty outfit. Think about it, because you've all done this. You've all done it, but yet you didn't catch what was going on. So number one, you have at some point been watching the news or watching the E! Network or watching some channel and they're showing New York Fashion Week. And you're watching the models walk down the runway and you're thinking to yourself, in fact, if there was someone else in the room with you, you probably said it out loud. You're thinking to yourself, who the hell would wear that stuff? Where the heck would you possibly wear something like that? That's what fashion is. Fashion, when it comes to fashion photography, is about attitude. It's about mood. And in fact, when you're watching those fashion shows on the runway, where you're looking at it and saying, where would you wear that? Why would you wear that? How would you wear that? Oftentimes, those particular outfits will never be available for sale. Depending on the designer, what they're actually doing is they're speaking kind of a fashion language, like a fashion code. The buyers from the different stores that are sitting in the audience watching this fashion show, they're paying attention to the materials, the colors, the patterns. They're paying attention to the width of the lapels. How big are the belts? Are the pants straight-legged? Are they belled? Are they flared? How long are the skirts? Are the jackets big shoulders, thin shoulders, long sleeves, short sleeves? How long are the jackets, etc.? That's what they're paying attention to. And then after the show, they go and sit down with the fashion designer and they say, oh my God, we love the jackets. We want jackets. And the next department store comes along and says, we love those skirts. We want the skirts. And give us a couple of the dresses. Then the designer goes back to their shop the next day and sends over sketches of the actual outfits based upon that fashion show to the department stores. And then the department store buyers will say, okay, we'll take 30 dozen of this, 50 dozen of this, depending on the size of the store, etc. Right? So fashion is not a pretty girl in a pretty outfit. That is not fashion. Fashion is a statement. Fashion is a mood. Fashion is in your face. That's what fashion is. Fashion is get attention. It's flamboyant. It's big. It's bold. It's colorful. It's what the hell is that? That's what fashion is. So if you want to do fashion, guys, do fashion. But taking a picture of a girl in a dress from Macy's, that ain't fashion. It's maybe, depending on how you do it, maybe commercial fashion, i.e. that's what you'd see in the Macy's ad, or that's what you see in the Macy's catalog. But that's not fashion, okay? All right, next up. Number 6, doing well on social media doesn't mean you're a good photographer. Duh. Especially when you consider the fact that most photographers suck at social media. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there's a video on my YouTube channel. Go check that out. So I've just insulted you. You should go check now because I guarantee you that a lot of you are making the mistakes that I talk about in that video. So you might want to watch it. It's called Social Media for Photographers. There's part 1 and part 2. I'll make it easy for you. You really only need to watch part 1. If you get through part 1 and you realize you're guilty, then watch part 2. Okay? All right. Number 7. 99% of what people call fine art photography has absolutely nothing to do with fine art. Somebody commented earlier, and I know I'm not going to find it right now, but somebody commented earlier, isn't art kind of a subjective thing? Well, so of course, and this is where it becomes kind of sad social commentary, in my opinion. That corny old phrase, and I only say corny because we've heard it a million times. It's been around forever. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Well, that phrase has stood the test of time because it's very legitimate. What I find attractive doesn't mean that's what you're going to find attractive. Unfortunately, I would bet that what this photographer, this anonymous photographer, was referring to when they offered up this claim is the idea that you go on so many of these modeling websites like Model Mayhem and Purple Port and Model Society, and you see images that are labeled as fine art nudes. And oftentimes they're so damn graphic that even Hustler magazine would not print these images. That's not fine art by any stretch of the imagination. So, maybe not 99%, but yes, a very high percentage. I agree, okay? Number 8, the vast majority of photographers have a massively overblown sense of self-importance. You're a monkey pushing a button on an expensive box, not the reincarnation of Jesus. This quote sounds to me like it came from an old washed up photographer. However, let's be clear about something. You guys have heard me say many, many times, nobody gives a damn about your photography. They just don't. If I wasn't spending all my time educating, doing TogChat, making tutorials, doing Facebook Live check-ins, putting up posts on Instagram where I'm putting lessons, etc. behind them, you're not going to care about my photography. You may think, hey, he's okay. His stuff is interesting, but you're not going to care. You care about me because I provide value to you, or you just like hearing a guy go nuts, right? But I provide value to you. That's why you care. So indeed, the idea that, oh, hey, I'm a good photographer and you should give a crap. No, that just doesn't work that way. And I would argue, and the reason why I said I believe this is an older photographer who's potentially washed up or into retirement or just frustrated because they're having to work hard. This is something that you generally see amongst younger photographers. So it's literally, and before you guys get mad at me, you younger guys, relax, hang on a second. I was one of those photographers when I was in my 20s. Oh my God, yes. I'm not proud of that, but I was one of those people. I simply think that it's a matter of maturity and maturing and growing up and learning about yourself, about kind of where you fit in the world, about what really is important to other people and what actually, provides value. That's kind of my belief in that, okay? James Pierce says here, just really quick, let me pop this up here. I don't want to miss this one. Would have been a good opportunity to define fine art photography. I did, James. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. There is no definition, but there are simply lots of images that are labeled fine art that, come on, any decent human being who respects women or men is not going to look at images like that and say that that's fine art, okay? So, but it's not up to me to make that decision, what is fine art. When people say, oh my God, your stuff is so artistic, your stuff is so creative, and it's not a modesty thing, I don't think I'm that creative. I try really hard to be creative, but I don't think that I'm naturally that creative. So when somebody says that to me, it actually feels awkward because I think, gosh, I wish I could see it the way they're seeing it. I would love to be able to see the world through the eyes of an Annie Leibovitz or see the world through the eyes of, God, any number of photographers, Joe McNally, okay, any of these people. I would love, a couple of weeks ago, I had Deborah Sandridge on, who's a Nikon ambassador, who does travel photography. I would love to be able to see the world through her eyes to understand the creative triggers. I would love to be able to do that. So I don't think it's up to me to define, or really for anyone to define. So, but there is this aspect of taste and I think what I would call appropriateness. And that's where I will latch onto that. Let's see here. Number 9, just because it's bright and shot at f1.4 doesn't make it a good picture. Yes, there is a very, very famous YouTuber who maintains the philosophy, why the hell would you buy an f1.8 lens and never shoot at f1.8? Really? Like, because your lens is 1.8, you're supposed to always shoot at 1.8? Come on, seriously? Wow. Anyway, so yeah, that doesn't make a good picture. Bokeh is not the answer, or bouquet, but I mean, just that word needs to be stricken from vocabulary of photographers everywhere. You need to forget about it. And if people would worry less about bokeh and pay more attention to those 3 words that everybody hates, depth of field, we'd all be better photographers. There would be so much better photography in the world. But bokeh is a result of depth of field. So pay more attention to depth of field, because depth of field is not bokeh. Really, really important to understand that, okay? Number 11, if you want to be an environmental landscape photographer, you ought to use your bicycle more than the plane or the car. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that at all. You know, you can't be a great landscape or travel photographer without like getting there. And that means going to, you know, the places that are off the beaten path, going to the places that you can't drive by and just hop out of the car and take the picture, going to the places that aren't on the tour route. Absolutely. That means, you know, also staying up late at night, getting up really early in the morning, go sleep in the middle of the day when the light's not that good, okay? So yeah, that type of work, believe me, it's not easy and it requires serious effort. So I completely agree with that. Number 11, hair and makeup is not something to cheap out on. You guys know my stand on that, right? If you want to do good work, if you want to do the kind of work that I do, hair and makeup artist, you know, you can kid yourself all you want and think that you're going to do it without, but you're not. You're simply not going to take your work to the next level. You folks have heard me say many, many times that so much of my work, I have the easy job. All I have to do is take a picture of it. I worked with a makeup artist and a model who brought it to life, who created this work of art in front of me, and all I had to do was put it in front of my camera and take a picture of it. I'm the lucky one that gets to put my name on it. So you can't do this kind of work without a hair and makeup artist, period. And if you want to take amazing wedding pictures, you know, think of the most famous of the wedding photographers out there. Go look at their work. I defy you to find me a bride that didn't have a hair and makeup artist. I defy you to find a portrait that didn't use a hair and makeup artist. You're not going to find it, right? So it's part of the process. And that doesn't mean you have to have more money. That money doesn't have to come out of your pocket. It should come out of your client's pocket. And if you're working to build a portfolio, find a way to trade or incorporate, or both of you pitch in, but you gotta do hair and makeup, period. Okay? Number 12, photojournalism isn't the greatest form of photography known to mankind. It doesn't deserve to win the majority of the prestigious photography awards. I would actually say bullshit on that. I started as a photojournalist. So let's break that statement down, right? Isn't the greatest form of photography known to mankind? I'll agree with that. Absolutely. And then they say it doesn't deserve to win the majority of the prestigious photography awards. Well, it just so happens that the majority of the prestigious photography awards evolve around journalism and documentary photography, right? So photojournalism does deserve to win the majority of those awards because that is what those awards are for. Right? They don't give out a Pulitzer for food photography. Otherwise, the guy that shoots McDonald's would like win that every year, right? They don't give Pulitzers for that. So yeah, I mean, this sounds like a studio guy that doesn't understand natural light and he's just jealous, okay? But photojournalism is damn tough. And the best photojournalists in the world, I'm sorry, are the most amazing photographers. And the reason why, I'll give you a guy like Joe McNally as a great example. Joe McNally can shoot anything. That's why, right? He can shoot anything and do a better than average job doing it. Here's a guy who's a photojournalist by trade and training, and he has risen to the top of his profession because of the skill sets that were required of him to be able to excel and to reach a point where he can shoot for National Geographic as a photojournalist. And that requires being able to handle just about anything, being able to think on your feet, being able to manage just about any kind of situation. So I'm sorry, but good photojournalists, and let's be clear, you know, there are really crappy photojournalists working for, you know, small town newspapers that couldn't shoot the sign of a barn if they were standing in front of it. Duh. But those photojournalists also aren't winning these prestigious awards, right? They're just not. So yeah, I have to disagree with that one as written, okay? Death to VSCO, orange skin and gray greens, I'm so sick of it. Yeah, I mean, you know, the whole idea of over-processing cell phone pictures. Look, I'm guilty as charged too when I still had my Nikon gear and was taking tons and tons of pictures on my iPhone, which if you guys have been following me for a few years, you know that before I became an Olympus shooter, I was posting more iPhone pictures than I was Nikon pictures, right? And there's just something about the smartphone images, like overcooking them, literally, you know, overcooking them in Snapseed or the VSCO, or there's just something about that that's it's kind of interesting. But indeed, it's overdone. Anything that's done to an extreme, it's like a trend. It has its little time, but then it has to go away. It just has to go away. You know, it's kind of like lime green clothing and fluorescent color clothing in the 80s, right? Big hair, it just has to go away, okay? So number 14, a photographer's obsession with gear is inversely proportional to the quality of their photography. Duh. I think that one was actually stated much too politely, in my opinion. That should have been a slightly stronger statement, okay? But you guys know that I completely agree with that one. Number 15, if you have photo or photographer or photography in your social media handle or in your domain, then I instantly think you're less of a photographer or lack the imagination to come up with a better name. So I won't lie, I'm not a fan of doing that. I think that this person's statement is maybe a little bit harsh and potentially misleading. So let me be clear. I don't have a problem if your URL or your profile name is, you know, John Smith Photo or John Smith Photographer, John Smith, you know, whatever. That's fine. Honestly, that's totally fine because it is intuitive, right? The way this is written, and again, I'm assuming that these are straight quotes because obviously they're not attributed to anyone in particular. So in theory, this could have been this writer's imagination. I don't think it was. These are actually pretty spot on. But the statement that goes on to say, I instantly think you're less of a photographer or lack the imagination to come up with a better name. If you have watched and read my articles and videos on marketing, you know that I am aggressively opposed to the idea of a portrait photographer or wedding photographer being named sunflower photos or timeless photos or, you know, special memories photography. That stuff is so damn cheesy. It is ridiculous. And it says nothing about who you are, right? So marketing tip, guys, pro tip. If you are trying to make money, don't put it in your about page or any of your marketing or any of that crap where you're saying, we do this and we do that and we do this and we do that when it's just you. If it's just you, say I do this. I offer that. I do this. By saying we, because a couple things happen. Number one, by saying we, everything's very impersonal. Also, by saying we, everything sounds expensive. It's like, ooh, well, there's a lot of mouths to feed and a lot of paychecks to be written, so they're going to cost more, right? And there's no we that people are going to deal with. And even if it's like, you know, if your wife does all the accounting and answers the phone, but you're the only photographer, then it's you. It's not we. If you and your wife both shoot, then it's we. But make it clear that it's just the two of you, not 10 of you. It's really, really important because you really just shoot yourself in the foot. It doesn't make you seem cooler or better if you make it sound like there's 20 of you. It actually makes you sound more expensive and harder to deal with because then there's the fear of, well, if I hire them, which one of them is actually going to show up at my wedding? So, okay. All right. Oh, Robert. This is Robert who wrote the article, is it not? Robert, is that who you are? I hope it is. Robert's in the UK. So awesome. Robert, seriously, Robert just got here. I don't know how much of the stream you've seen so far, Robert. This is an awesome article. And you've got some great stuff in here. My only complaint, Robert, and I understand why you didn't do it, so don't get me wrong, I would love to know the names of the photographers that said some of these comments because overwhelmingly I agree with them. So this is great. So Robert, if you have anything to share along the way here, I am sure that folks would love to hear any additional comments or feedback on some of these quotes that didn't quite make it, okay? So we are up to, where am I at here? Let's see. Number 16, Photoshop is the most valuable talent of a modern photographer. No, of course not. Photoshop is, in my opinion, Photoshop is an extremely important talent. And we're gonna get to that because that's another comment that's coming up, okay? But certainly not the most valuable talent at all. That's pretty much a given, okay? Number 17, if you can't create consistently high quality work, you're not a good photographer. I don't disagree. I'll change one word, and then I completely agree. If you can't create consistently high quality work, you're not a great photographer, and you stand no chance of becoming a great photographer, because it is about consistency, right? You can go out and you can shoot and shoot and shoot, and let's say you get like 3 amazing pictures after taking, 10 assignments. So you put those 3 amazing pictures on your website, and that becomes your marketing. Well, that's what people expect they are going to get if they hire you. They expect that they are going to get that level of work, right? So 3 out of 10 assignments, that's not a high return rate. And if it takes you another 20 assignments to add 2 or 3, then you are not shooting very consistently. Now, I'm also not arguing that every time you pick up the camera, you should have a new image for your portfolio. Nobody's that good. They're just not, okay? But the fact of the matter is, you've got to be able to consistently produce good work, or you're not going to be able to become a great photographer. And from a business standpoint, you will wind up with a lot of really disappointed clients, right? You just will. So, next up here, number 18. Photographers obsess over corner performance and micro contrast on lenses, shot on third, blah, 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 blah. Come on, you know my answer to that, right? And he's got a great point here. They fuss over all that crap, spend tons of money over all that crap, and then they post a low-res image at 1,080 pixels on Instagram. So yeah, I mean, you guys know, I'm not a geartographer. I will never be a geartographer. I respect the geartographers that are into photography simply because they like the toys. I don't respect the geartographers that are claiming that they want to make amazing pictures, but they can't get their head out of their butts to forget about the damn gear and actually learn how to use it and create great images. So I'm with you on that one 100% of the way. Gosh, I would love to know who said these. So number 19. A pro photographer is about making money. Being a pro is not directly related to talent, but to business and commercial skills. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, you can't argue with that. I will argue, and I've talked about this before. I have a video where I talk about this. Professional is a behavior. It is an attitude. It is a way that you present yourself, handle yourself, manage yourself, and take care of your subjects/clients, right? So I have met and had the good fortune of knowing many very professional photographers that do not pay their bills with a camera. And I would defy anyone to not call these particular people professional, because every ounce of their behavior and quality is professional, but they don't pay their bills that way. However, yes, traditionally across the board, let's face it, the idea of being a pro is tied to making money, etc. But, the statement that it's not directly related to talent, unfortunately, that's a factual statement. It would be nice if it was. But yeah, there are a lot of people that don't have a lot of talent, but they're good salespeople and they make good money. And you know what? Good for them, right? So next up, number 20, gear matters. Yes, I could cross the country with a Ford T, but I prefer to do it in a BMW. Yeah, in that regard, gear matters in the sense that it's got to be the gear that's going to let you get the job done, right? So, the analogy here of, a Ford Model T compared to a BMW, well, that's like saying, hey, look, I could cross the country in a Prius or I could cross the country in a Porsche. Well, I would argue that the guy that crosses the country in a Prius is a hell of a lot smarter than the guy that crosses the country in the Porsche. The guy that crosses the country in the Porsche is going to look a lot cooler. Maybe he gets there a little faster. Maybe he picks up some chicks along the way. Who knows? But the guy in the Prius is going to save a ton of money. He can go buy more gear, right? Just saying. But yeah, seriously. I mean, the whole thing about gear, guys, you got to have the right gear. That's very important, okay? And you should have the best gear that you can afford for the work that you need to do. Absolutely. But that does not mean that you're buying the biggest, the best, the newest every time it hits. God, no, absolutely not. 21, claiming to be a natural light only photographer is almost always just a cover for being unwilling or unable to work with artificial light. Amen. Period. Natural light, gang, that's the tough stuff. Studio work? Studio's easy. In a studio, you're God. You decide where it goes. You decide how bright it is. You decide how to modify it. It's easy. Natural light and finding good natural light, that's the hard stuff. That's the stuff that really requires developing an eye and being able to see, okay? Let's see, number 22, Canon sensor tech is outdated. Other manufacturers buy Sony sensors, not Canon. Who cares? You know, that one, we'll pass on that one. 23, shooting Instagram influencers who have a ton of followers for exposure is a waste of time because their audience could care less about the photographer and is never your target market. Also, amen. You know, that comes back to the exposure argument, right? When you're very first getting started, just out of the gate, is there some value to doing some things for exposure? Not a lot, just a little. Really, you know what the biggest value for a photographer, for a young or new photographer, the biggest value for a young or new photographer to shoot for exposure is, and I'm really serious about this, the biggest value is to shoot for exposure so that you learn firsthand how stupid it is to shoot for exposure. Honestly, that's the best way, okay? 24, colors from Sony cameras are horrible. You know what? So you guys know, I had tried Sony back when I was a Nikon guy. I tried Sony. I had, what is it, the A7R2, I think it was, you know, and this was back when Sony only had 4 lenses. So early days, but I didn't like the ergonomics. I've said that many, many times. I'm not trashing Sony, so Sony folk relax. I'm about to say something really nice about Sony. I didn't mind their color. You know, so yeah, I mean, if I had to choose today, because I've actually gone back since I became an Olympus shooter, I've gone back and I've looked at some of my Sony files that I shot when I had the Sonys. I've looked at, you know, the stuff I'm doing at Olympus now. I am absolutely in love with the Olympus color processing. In fact, I've told you guys, I've stopped using Capture One even in the studio. I just don't need it. I simply don't need it. I love what I get from color out of Olympus. Personal preference, right? So, you know, I'm not selling anything. It's personal preference. But I don't have a problem with, you know, Sony's color. And in all fairness, if I was going to complain about anybody, and please, I'm not trying to start a camera war. This is personal preference, right? The brand whose colors that I like the least is Canon. And it's mainly because Canon images always seem to have more contrast. The blacks seem more blocked up. But if you're shooting raw, it doesn't matter, right? It simply doesn't matter, okay? So please, I'm not dumping on Canon. I'm being honest about my thoughts on this comment, okay? Let's see, number 25, work should only be judged on the quality of the final image. The process is a means to an end, but using an artificially difficult process to produce a subpar image doesn't make you better. Hell yeah, on both counts, right? So there's 2 statements in there. It doesn't matter how you get to the end result. And especially for those of you that want to make money, your client doesn't care what you did. Your client doesn't care that you used the coolest, newest, latest action that was written by Aaron Nace or Scott Kelby or Unmish Dinda. Your client doesn't care. Your client only cares, hey, is it good or is it bad? Done, right? That's it. So I completely agree with that part. And the idea that because you had to put together 15 different pictures and take a piece of this and a piece of that and run this plugin and that plugin and you did this action and you did that action and after you masked this and you split toned this and you did all that, you had this picture that's like, yeah, okay, and it looks like everybody else's. Should that make us care about your picture? Oh, hell no. Not at all. That falls under the zombie-tographer category, you know, where some guy on YouTube who likes to shoot outdoors shoots something and he does this whole fancy Lightroom action and then everybody else has to try that action. And then the guy can go out and he can make thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars because he sells an action that people are dumb enough to buy the damn action that they can create themselves. So yeah, and that way all of you just look the same as the guy that created it. And in the meantime, he's laughing all the way to the bank. And while you're using the action to look like him, he's going off and he's doing something different so that he can sell you a new action. Not very intelligent. And your clients, believe me, your clients don't care. Your clients absolutely do not care what YouTuber you got the steps from to make your picture look like that YouTuber's work. Your clients want to feel that the experience and the image they have is unique to you and to them, okay? All right, 26, Leica is a status brand for rich hipsters. Leica is expensive. You know, I'm not gonna lie to you. I couldn't tell you a damn thing about Leica today. I really couldn't. When I was a kid, Leica was way out of my price range. You know, there were photographers like my idol, David Hume Kennerly, carried some Leicas with him, you know, when he was in Vietnam and all those places. You know, there were photojournalists that had them and they were really cool, but they were crazy expensive. I could never afford one back then. I wouldn't spend that kind of money now. And it's not because it's an expensive camera. If the Leica was giving me features and doing things for me that no other camera could do, then I'd certainly be looking at that Leica. But there's nothing about a Leica that satisfies my needs. And I don't hear too many people saying that I switched to Leica and it took my photography to a whole new level. Like, in fact, I haven't heard anybody say that. I haven't seen that article. I haven't seen that video yet. So, yeah, I mean, if we want to call it for rich hipsters, it's probably not an inaccurate statement, okay? 27, the best camera isn't the one with you. Ooh, that's fighting words to Chase Jarvis, right? It's your best camera, so make sure that's the one with you. And I completely agree, right? That's why I switched from Nikon. That was a big part of why I switched from Nikon. I was taking pictures with this. And this is not why I became a photographer. Don't get me wrong. I think it's amazing that we can take really nice pictures with a smartphone. Even as an Olympus ambassador, I still think that's amazing. And I still use my smartphone from time to time. But the great part of it is now I've almost always got an Olympus camera with me, almost always. It might be, you know, a small EPL9 or the Pen F, or it's going to be the EM1 Mark II or the EM1X, but I've almost always got a camera with me or within arm's reach. And indeed, I completely agree. The best camera is your best camera. And so you should have it with you. You know, if you really want to improve as a photographer and you really want to become the best photographer that you can be, that's not going to happen with your camera at home. It's going to be with you, period. Okay? So I love you. So here, I'm going to put this on the screen. I don't know who this guy is or this woman is, but you know, you're not going to get me into a fight about Olympus. You're basically just trying to be a jerk here. Here's what Olympus is going to do for you. All right? You think that you're going to upset me because you keep trying to make this comparison. I haven't tried to sell you anything about Olympus. In this talk tonight, I've talked about Leica, I've talked about Sony, I've talked about Canon, I've talked about Nikon. I haven't trashed anybody. I wasn't a big fan of Canon's colors, right? But you haven't heard me trash anybody. I'm an equal opportunity offender. I use Olympus. Here's the good part about all your obnoxiousness. My goal as an Olympus ambassador, because you know I'm an Olympus ambassador, I'm an Olympus visionary. This is what I told Olympus when they contacted me about becoming one of their ambassadors. I told them I will not sell people Olympus gear. I will show Olympus gear. I will talk about how much fun I have it. But most importantly, this is my goal. Because I am dedicated to teaching all photographers. I don't care what cameras you use. My goal, if anything, is to make you what I call, this is my term, not Olympus's term, my term. My goal is to make all of you Olympus curious. Not so that you run out and buy an Olympus camera. I fully am aware that most of you Sony users are not going to go drop your Sonys and go buy an Olympus. I never said you should. I've never indicated that. But here's the good part. If you actually pay attention to me, since you've been showing up the last few weeks, I love, and interacting and talking, if you actually pay attention to any of the things I say and any things I talk about, the next time you're ready to go buy that brand new camera that just came out, hopefully all of my talk about Olympus and what you can do with Micro Four Thirds will make you pause before you whip out that credit card and buy the 60 or 70 or 80 megapixel camera that just got released. Hopefully it will make you pause and say, wait, do I really need that camera? Is that camera, I don't care what brand, is that camera going to take my work to the next level? Or am I better off sticking with the camera that I have now, whatever brand that is, and maybe adding some new lenses that will give me different visual perspectives, which will change the look and feel of my images, or maybe add some new lighting or other accessories that can allow me to expand my capabilities as a photographer. So no, you haven't heard me say that Olympus is going to take your work to a new level. You haven't heard me say that about my work. What Olympus did for me is it got me excited about photography again. If you've watched my videos, instead of just coming in here with obnoxious comments, I had reached a point where I only picked up my Nikon cameras when I was getting paid. Well, the problem is when I was 11 years old and I bought my first camera, and when I was 14 years old and I got my first photograph printed in a newspaper, it was not about money. it was about a passion for creating and making pictures. I couldn't put that camera down. I wanted that passion back. And I'd gotten to the point that the cameras were too damn big and too damn heavy for me. And I became curious. I became curious about Micro Four Thirds because I was using Panasonic, another brand, for my video work. And after doing a lot of research, I settled in on Olympus because Olympus ticked off the important boxes. It gave me the quality that I wanted. It had an amazing lens selection. And best of all, smaller and lighter with amazing ergonomics. Making that move allowed me to be able to break free from the bigger is better mentality. Making that move allowed me to be able to break free from that idea that every 18 months I was going to spend tons of money on the next biggest and better that Nikon or anybody else was coming out with for that matter. Okay. So, again, it's not about having to switch to Olympus. Okay. And I see your follow-up here, love. So here, in all fairness, I want to make sure that I'm not going to talk over you. I want to make sure that I'm being fair, okay? I never said that Micro Four Thirds is better than a full frame or crop sensor. You've never heard those words come out of my mouth. Let's be really clear. But what I am saying is, pick up your Sony, pick up your Nikon, pick up your Canon, and I'll go head to head with you with that camera any day. With my cameras by Olympus. The fact of the matter is, gang, and you're all smart enough to know this, I don't have to teach you this. You can't buy a bad camera today. I don't care what brand you're looking at. You can't purchase a bad camera. However, there are a ton of really bad photographers. Really bad photographers. So, certainly, you can go ahead and you can spend all the money in the world to have the best possible camera by the numbers, I love, right? Biggest sensor, biggest dynamic range, all that stuff. You can do that, but that's not going to make your pictures better. The fact of the matter is, we are at a point now where the amount of resolution and all the stuff that we are getting with these high-end cameras, it's beyond what our brains are able to perceive. It's beyond what the internet is able to show where most of your pictures are going. It's beyond what printers need to print your big pictures. Remember, I just had a 48-foot wide by 14-foot tall billboard printed off of a cropped Micro Four Thirds image. It wasn't even the full frame, it's cropped. So you gotta look back at all the technology and understand, what do you really, really need, right? That's the point, okay? So let's finish up here and then we'll get some questions because we're going to run out of time. Just going to, I don't want Trevor to be right. I can't let Trevor be right about it being a 4-hour show. So number 28, this is a big one. Not using post-processing such as Photoshop is not a high ground. It's a choice to sacrifice your quality because you are lazy. Hell yes. SOOC. For those of you that don't know what SOOC is, straight out of camera. Remember this quote, SOOC is not a badge of honor. Anytime I hear a photographer say, oh, look, this is SOOC, I immediately finish the sentence by saying, because you're too damn lazy or don't know how to post your pictures, period. The fact of the matter is that digital raw files were designed to be processed. No differently than film, except you do it on a computer, not with chemicals, but they were designed to be processed. And a JPEG is simply a shortcut. That's all it is. A JPEG is allowing the software in your camera to process the image, bake in the final choices that the camera makes, the computer makes, and give you a file that really can't be edited without a large or heavy risk of degrading that file. Just can't be. So the fact of the matter is that digital files are designed to be developed, done, end of sentence, no debate, no argument. SOOC is not a badge of honor. It's just not, okay? And last but not least, photography quick starters are a quick way to waste money. Yeah, I completely agree. I'll give you a perfect example. So you guys know, like, let's be clear. I have a history of calling out companies that I think overcharge, that I think are overpriced. And I give it to you straight. I tell you when I think, I think they have really good products, but I think that, what they're doing in terms of the pricing is ridiculous. So here's a perfectly good example. I am a huge fan of MagMod. I have invested over $1,000 of my own money. It wasn't handed to me. I've got over $1,000 worth of MagMod gear for my Godox system. I love it. Travel all over the country with it. Their recent Magbox, number one, the fact that they put it up on Kickstarter just to raise a ton of money up front to pay for their research and development, yada, yada, yada. And then number two, the fact that they're selling it for like $500, I'm sorry, that's highway robbery. It's straight up highway robbery. Great product. I would buy 2 of them if they were priced more appropriately at $250 or less, because it's not worth more than that. It's just not. So the idea that I'm going to spend $500 for something like that, where I can do almost the same job with other pieces with not a lot of loss in terms of convenience. It's a great product, but sorry, yeah, you're not getting my $500 for that. It makes no sense. Okay. So anyway, that is our list there. Okay. Let me, we're going to go ahead and we're going to switch back here. So, and actually Doyle. So again, I want to make sure that people understand, like I am an Olympus guy. I love it. But Doyle said he looked at Olympus because of me, but he decided it's not for me. And it's not for everybody. It's just not. If you guys were listening earlier, as I mentioned, I didn't dislike the Sonys. At the time that I tried Sonys, they didn't have a lot of lenses, but obviously I knew they were going to come out with lenses, right? I didn't like the ergonomics at all. I just hated from pretty much minute one the way that Sony camera felt in my hands. That doesn't make it a bad camera. That makes it the wrong camera for me, right? In the early 2000s, I bought a Nikon D1 in 2000 or 2001. Nikon came out with the first, pro level production line digital camera. Obviously, there were the Nikons that had the digital backs and all that kind of stuff before that. But the all-in-one piece was the Nikon D1. I purchased a D1 at an insane price. Loved the digital technology, was all over it. And then for probably the next 8 years, Canon pretty much mopped the floor with Nikon. Nikon, they hit the market first, but then they couldn't get their act together with the technology at all. Canon started coming out with really great digital technology. That's when you saw at sporting events, you saw all the lenses turn from black to white when all the photojournalists switched over to Canon, because Nikon they didn't have crap and they were showing no progress at the time. The only reason I didn't change, because I wanted the better quality, of course I did. I don't like the way Canon cameras feel. I don't like the layout of them. And I mean, let's just be fair, folks. They're big and heavy cameras, bigger and heavier than Nikon, right? So it just wasn't for me. That doesn't make them bad cameras, right? They're great cameras. They're all great cameras. So I saw somebody said, Jason Page, the Yashica Kickstarter camera was a bad camera. Jason, I got to give you that one. I think most of us would probably agree with you, like wholeheartedly. Yeah, on that one, that Yashica was just a really kind of crazy idea. So, so let's see here. Steve Camrad, as an old film guy, you love to feel your Nikons, but then you shot with your wife's Olympus EM5 for a week, and now you're Nikonless. Yeah, I mean, again, not for everybody, but good for you, man. Here's the one thing I will tell you guys. So now this is going to get the full frame people. This is going to get your backs up against the wall. So you can go ahead. I will let you have your comments. I'll even share a couple of them if you want to debate. That's fine. But let me give you something to think about for all you full frame folk. And this is not saying, hey, go buy Olympus tomorrow. No, this is just saying, pay attention, right? Let's go back. Sometimes, and this is one of those things that it kind of sucks that you have to get older to learn this. Trust me, okay? But this is one of those things that you get a little bit older, you start to realize that you should have paid attention when you were younger and people said, hey, this is how it works. But you were young and you thought you knew it all and you didn't pay attention. We can learn a lot by looking backwards. We can learn a lot about the future. Excuse me, let me be clear. We can learn a lot about the future by looking backwards. And what I mean by that is this. Let's go back as far as like the Industrial Revolution. Look at all the technology that came about in the Industrial Revolution. And then what did we do as a society? we made things smaller, lighter, faster, more inexpensive. What's happening in the photography world right now? Companies like Olympus are continuing the battle, smaller, lighter, faster, inexpensive. Companies like Canon, Sony, Nikon are getting more expensive, bigger, heavier, and not faster. They're just not. That trend is only going to be allowed to go on for so long before people are going to say, what the hell? I'm carrying a 13-pound camera with this body and this lens. Why am I carrying a 13-pound camera? I mean, these cameras are releasing 7.5-pound lenses now. Like, why? What do you need a lens at 7.5 pounds unless it's like 1,000 millimeters long? Like, why? So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're going to go out of business. No, but they've got to change course. They've got to change course because the way they're improving the quality of their cameras is by adding more, bigger. That's how they're improving their quality. Instead of focusing on smaller and lighter like people like, and then working to improve that technology, which is what a company like Olympus is doing. So for me, contrary to what Mr. Northrup declared, that M4 III is dead, which was one of the dumbest things I've ever heard, it's not dead. It's long going to live. And I'm not saying that Canon, Nikon, and Sony are going to go to Micro Four Thirds. No, not at all. Who knows? It could happen. But I am saying, and I'm guaranteeing you, within 5 years, they're going to hit a wall where people are going to say, you know what? I don't want these big-ass cameras anymore. This is ridiculous. And these companies are either going to get their act together and come out with smaller, lighter cameras, or they're going to lose customers, right? They just are. So believe me, guys, there's going to be a lot of changes there. So where to wink? What is the EPL9 doing behind you? Is it just prop? No, actually, it's one of my B-roll cameras that I use when I'm shooting a YouTube video. So, and this is literally how I mount them. I put them on an auto pole so that I can actually move them around when I'm doing a shoot pretty quickly. So it's the EPL9. I've got the 8mm fisheye on here, which I was using just to kind of get a super wide view today. And then I've got the Olympus LSP4, which is an awesome digital recorder. I mean, just so you guys actually realize how small this thing is, let me, so a lot of you have heard of like the Zoom, you know, the H4M or the Tascam recorders, which I've used the Zoom in the past. Is my Zoom here? No, my Zoom's not here. This is like a fraction of the size of the Zoom, and it's amazing sound quality. In fact, it uses the same, kind of recording system that's in the cameras, only a lot better. So yeah, I actually love working with these. They're real tiny, fits in your pocket. And then when you need to download, you can put a disc in it or USB connection right there. So super, super fast and easy. So yeah, it's just left over from a shoot that I just did, and I haven't had a chance to take it down yet. So, all right, so let's see here. Where are we at for questions? Because now it's my fault. I have turned this whole conversation into a gear conversation. So let's see here. Let me scroll back. I know there were a couple things going. Nerd45, seriously considering selling all of your Nikon gear to go all Fujifilm. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you the same as I tell everybody. Make sure you actually rent a Fuji camera or go to a camera store where they'll let you try it out, get it in your hands, use it. Holding and operating a Fuji camera is extremely different physical experience, an extremely different physical experience than using any Nikon camera. A lot of people asked me when I made the switch to Olympus, hey, what about Fuji? Like, did you check out Fuji? Because I didn't mention Fuji in my video. I did check out Fuji. I didn't try the cameras. From the get-go, I honestly just did not like the feel of it. That doesn't make it a bad camera. That for me, for my hands, I did not like the feel of the camera. So all I'm going to tell you is make sure you get one in your hands for more than 5 minutes. Actually go take pictures with it because it is a very, very different physical experience than what you're used to with your Nikons, okay? So that's important. Let me see here. William, you share SOC pictures on Instagram stories the day of the shoot. Firstly, to show the process the client you've gone through, but also because the files I get out of the EM1 Mark II are good, so good. Yeah, and that's kind of a special needs thing. I'll be honest with you. So I'm the Olympus guy. Like when I'm doing my Instagram stories during a shoot, I'm not going to open up the instant transfer app and do all that stuff. it's nothing against the Olympus gear. It's easier to pick up an iPhone. I am always going to use the best piece of equipment for what it is that I need to do. So if I'm just going to do an Instagram story, the iPhone's going to do that so much simpler. Zombie Sniper, thank you so much, man. I really, really appreciate the super chat. Thank you. Okay. So yeah, nothing wrong with doing that. Literally, I'm with you all the time. Eric, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. You guys are the super chats. Really, really, really appreciate it. Yeah. Oh, I see somebody talking about Boca and Wilcadena. Yeah. I mean, you guys want to like have your mind blown. Those of you that are all about Boca and F1.4, you should go back. You should watch my TogChat where I interviewed Wilcadena, and then you should go check out Will's website. Look at his work. He is Mr. like big depth of field, and his images are gorgeous. They're amazing, but there's none of this 1.2, 1.8 stuff and kind of crazy bokeh, like not at all. Okay. So let's see here. PM, before you said if you shoot at 1.4, it's not always a good shoot. I agree with that, but why must I buy a $1,000 to $2,000 f1.4 lens and then not work with my budget lens f4? You don't have to buy a 1.4 lens. So I think maybe I'm misunderstanding your question a little bit, but I've never said you have to buy a $1,000 or $2,000 f1.4 lens. If you're going to use me as the example, because I talk about the 45mm f1.2 Pro lens from Olympus, which is kind of my go-to portrait lens, which is an expensive portrait lens, absolutely. But then I also have the 12-100 f4, which is a zoom and f4, and I also use the 75mm f1.8. The reason why I have that Pro lens, and I did buy the Pro lens, Olympus didn't hand it to me, it wasn't free, I purchased it, okay? The reason why I have that 1.2 Pro lens is because every now and then, I do like to do an extremely shallow depth of field shot in my shooting, repertoire. And that 1.2 lens is weather sealed, which is also very valuable, very, very important. Oh my God, you guys are the super chats. Thank you so much. Life's beautiful. I appreciate it. Thank you. Alan, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Really, really awesome. Okay. So yeah, PM, if I've missed something, about your question, please give me more information. But if I gave you the impression that you have to have the lens, oh my God, no. Believe me, like yesterday, actually, I shot all day and I used the 75mm like all day long, which is a fraction of the price of the 45mm f1.2. So buying the more expensive lens is not necessarily getting you quality at all, okay? So let's see here. Scrolling back up, I wanna make sure I'm getting everything. Nerd45, how big is that monitor behind me? That is a 65-inch television. It's a 4K TV that I got for pennies over $500 on Amazon. And it will be featured in my next video. So just to give you guys a hint, I'm not gonna tell you the whole story, but just to give you guys a hint, okay? This background and this background are that TV. Pretty cool. Okay, so yeah, that'll be coming up beginning of next week. You guys will see that video, and you'll see me posting a whole bunch of stuff on Instagram about it too, so make sure you're following me there as well, okay? Sitka, man, what is this? Hey, Joe, this is the guy from Scotland that did the interview with you all. Oh, yeah, I remember. You're stuck in the same loop and you want to improve and develop more of a style. How can you do that? Wow. Well, we haven't talked in a long time. So, I mean, the first thing is, if you're thinking about how to develop a style, I would argue you're going about it all wrong. I actually have a video. It's a couple of years old, but it's worth watching. It's on my YouTube channel. It's all about kind of having a style, finding a style. And basically what I tell you is don't try to find a style. The style will find you. You have the style. You just have to shoot enough until it basically hits you over the head and you realize there it is. If you look at another photographer and you say, I really like what they do, I want to do what they do, at best, you're going to be kind of a cheap copy of them, but you're never going to be able to do exactly what they do. And it's not about being good enough. It's just about you're not them. That's all it is, right? So you got to be careful of that. In terms of improving, shoot. And you've got to push yourself. You've got to challenge yourself. One of the things that for me, and I won't lie, I'm a little bit spoiled, but don't get me wrong. I bust my butt to be able to be spoiled for this. With my situation now, doing the teaching and doing the work that I do on YouTube, just like what I'm experimenting with this TV right now, is I spend a good part of my free time just trying to think of what's the most insane idea that I can think of that probably hasn't been done before, that I haven't seen done anywhere, and is there a way that I can make it work? And fortunately, my career right now, after all of these years of doing client work, my career right now allows me the freedom to do that. So people that are on the other end of the spectrum, that are just getting started, still have that freedom, right? To think way outside the box, to challenge yourself, to push stuff, et cetera, okay? People that are in the middle of their career, it's not that you can't do it, but it's just that you got to work a little bit harder to be able to challenge yourself and get outside the box. But believe me, the more that you can get outside the box, the more you're going to be able to push yourself in any given direction in terms of improving or creating something a little bit different. So yeah, I mean, but let me know if there's you know how to contact me directly. If I can help out, I'll do my best. But yeah, the big thing is just keep shooting, keep experimenting. David, wondering about my opinion on using the Fresnel head versus the bare bulb for the 8200 units. It depends on what I'm using it for. So to be clear, I don't own any of the round heads, David. So when you say Fresnel head, for me, I'm referring to the speedlight style heads, right? And just in case, for those of you that don't know the difference here, let me make sure that we're being really clear because I don't want to leave anybody in the dust here. Let me grab one. Okay, so this is a bare bulb head, right? This would be the Fresnel head. It's got a mag grip on it. See, I told you guys, like I'm a Magmod person, right? It's just that new Magbox, crazy price, okay? So, which, Magmod, if somebody rats me out and you hear this, you want to send me one, knock yourselves out, I'll use it, but price is too high. Lower the price. It's a good product. So anyway, which do I use? I use both. It depends on what I'm doing, right? If I want like a rim light or a hair light, or I'm gonna light up a background and I wanna put a gel and that kind of stuff, I'm gonna use the Fresnel head, right? I almost always have it zoomed at 24 millimeter, regardless of what lens I'm using. I almost always, because I'm using it kind of for like a wide swath of light. If I'm using their modifiers like the Mag Sphere or the Mag Bounce, or if I'm using the Mag Snoot, any of that kind of stuff, I'm using the Fresnel head. If I'm using a softbox or a beauty dish or an octabox or a strip box or any of those types of modifiers, then I'm using the bare bulb. That's what the bare bulb is going to get used for. So that's how I'm breaking that down with my workflow. Okay. All right, David. Let's see here. Scrolling on up here. So I got that. Spinning Wheels Photography. The name of that recorder, it's the Olympus LS-P4. Incredibly reasonably priced. You can see it's tiny, which is awesome. Like fits in your pocket. This is just a little attachment I have that you can put it in a hot shoe. I will tell you, I'll be completely honest with you. Like, again, no BS. If you're going to do it on a hot shoe, you're not going to use your camera up to your eye because, there's the hot shoe, there's the microphones. It's going to hit you in the head, right? So generally when you're working with video, you're going to want to use the LCD screen or you're using, another monitor. But Olympus does make lavalier mics that you can attach to it. They, they make the windscreens, what they call dead cats. They have all those types of accessories. It's got an earphone jack. It's got a microphone jack. Like I can use my Sennheiser mics in this and work wirelessly, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's very versatile. It's actually awesome for the size. I really like it. So I've got a video coming up that I'm working on that's going to show you guys more and more. I think everybody wants to go in competition with me, and that's fine. But more and more people are asking for me to do a video about how I shoot my videos, like kind of the whole behind the scenes thing and how I have this all set up. So yes, I'm going to basically break down every step and every piece of gear that I have because all of my stuff, it's completely Olympus. And I'm not saying that for commercial. People are just like, no, you're using Olympus? Like, yeah, you're watching me right now through an OMD EM1 Mark II that's live streaming. So yeah, all of it's all of it's set up through Olympus gear. Some real simple software now. For the longest time, I was using some stupidly expensive software that actually really sucked. Now I'm working with really inexpensive software that's awesome. So yeah, but I will break all that down. So Peter Tran, why are dead cats called dead cats? I've heard them called lots of different things. Dead cats is the one I think just stuck with me. I have nothing against cats, let's be clear. I think mainly just because it's furry. You know, for those of you that don't know what a dead cat is, here, let me grab a dead cat for that. This is obviously, this is a really tiny one, right? But this is the one that would go over this unit, okay? Like so, and it looks like a cat's fur or, nice little brush, whatever, okay? But yeah, so that's a dead cat. I think it's just because people think that's what it looks like. Now we're getting into the deep questions, okay? Doyle, where did I get that awesome cool shirt? Literally, I got that shirt on Amazon. The company that makes the shirts that I wear most of the time, people have asked this before, they went out of business. So I've been dabbling with some others, and yeah, this is actually very inexpensive. I found it on Amazon. Well, here's a loaded question. So Noel's photo, what is your opinion on YouTube photographers? I'm not really sure how to approach this question because I'm kind of a YouTube photographer. I think last time I checked, we're on YouTube, right? I think I know what you're after, and I will say this. I am a big fan of YouTube as a resource for photographers. I'll be really honest with you guys. I love all of you for spending 90 minutes with me on a Wednesday night. Sincerely, I love you because it allows me to do what I do, and it makes me smarter. Every time I get to talk to you guys, it makes me smarter. So that's my selfish reason for doing it. If I had to choose between having you watch me for 90 minutes or having you go pick up a camera and shoot and take pictures for 90 minutes, even if it was just things around your house, even if it was playing with a flashlight to take a picture of an egg. But if I had to choose between those two things, I sincerely would rather you not be here, and I would rather you being out taking pictures with your camera because you'll learn more. My videos will always be there as a resource. Like all the tutorials that I do, when I do a video about the inverse square law will be the inverse square law 6 years from now, right? It's not going to change. If you notice, that's why I don't do the gear videos. Like, here's the latest, greatest camera. I talked about the Olympus camera when it came out. Duh, I'm an Olympus ambassador. So yes, I made a video about it, but I'm not a gear guy, right? I'm a photography guy. There are photographers who I've talked about routinely that just like to make drama. They just like to get people upset. They just like to get people angry. They just like to blow a bunch of hot air. That stuff, I simply have no patience for that. And the thing that frustrates me the most about those people, some of the people that do that are incredibly talented. They are incredibly knowledgeable. I just wish, I really, really wish, for the sake of the photography community, I wish those people would take their knowledge and put it to good use and teach and help people improve as photographers instead of just ranting about gear and making, predictions about this going out of business and this being dead and all this kind of crap. They could do so much more good for the community if they would actually teach what they know about photography, because that's the worst part of it. They're not stupid people. They're talented people. They're intelligent people. But they've decided to simply chase money, and they've put money before everything else. And that's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. So that's my take on that. It's not the most popular, but that's my take on it. So let's see here. Scrolling back up here. Gunguez 58. Do I mentor people starting a photography business? You're looking for a mentor. Well, I do. Hopefully you understand. Mentoring is not completely free, right? I mean, I have a limited amount of time, but what you can do, it's really, really simple. If you go to my website, so here, let's go get over there. I'm going to take the question off the screen real quick just so we can see this. Up at the top, click on lectures and workshops. And you'll see two links, video consultations and one-on-one mentoring. So regardless of where you are in the world, you can do a consultation with me. We do it via Zoom or Skype. And then the one-on-one mentoring, you can also do either here in my studio with me, or I also do these one-on-one mentoring sessions, which are like full-day sessions we can do them remotely. I've done them with people in Australia. I've done them with people in Southeast Asia. I've done them with people in the UK. So, and we do it all with video technology and Zoom technology. So that's definitely an option if that's something that you're looking for, okay? Deborah, you inspired me to shoot or at least go to my home studio every day. Awesome, because that's my goal, Deborah. It really is. The only way you get better at this stuff is to pick up that camera and to shoot with it. So I'm really glad to hear that. Thank you. Let's see here. Areeb, I apologize if I got that pronounced wrong. Your unit is having the graduation soon. You're going to offer $10 portraits outside the arena after the event. Do you have any recommendations for how you should present or advertise yourself on location? So uni, I'm assuming university. My advice, and so obviously $10 portraits is like dirt cheap. So I mean, good for you if you want to do that. It sounds like it's also, you know, potentially like your school, as in you're going there. So that's cool. In terms of advertising it, I would assume that depending on where you are in the world, but most colleges here in the US, each class has, you know, a Facebook page, a Facebook group. They have all kinds of social media that's dedicated just to their portion of the school. I know the school that my wife teaches at, you know, the class of 2019 that's about to graduate, they've got their own Facebook group. They've got Facebook pages and that where they communicate. There's also the school newspapers. So basically, you know, you want to do social media and get information posted on those, you know, those platforms where people can find out that you're available. You know, and then second to that, in terms of setting up outside the arena, try to set up in a location that's very visible. Try and find an area where there's enough foot traffic that people are going to, you know, people are going to see you and realize that it's there. You might want to maybe have a small sign made up so they understand very quickly, like, hey, you can get a picture done for $10, you know. So yeah, I mean, that would probably be the easiest way to do it. If this is the first time you're doing something like that and you're just trying it out, then I would say, you know, it definitely, you're kind of on the right track. Certainly, if you're looking to build a business and maybe become a full-time photographer, $10 portraits, even at an event, you're not going to pay your bills that way, right? So I'm not trying to talk you out of doing it. I think it's actually a great learning experience and kind of a great way to, you know, kind of work yourself into, you know, doing that kind of work. But certainly at $10 a head, you're not going to be paying your bills long-term for that, okay? All right, gang, so listen, we are well over 90 minutes. So this was a fun discussion tonight, even though I feel like I didn't answer a ton of questions. So for those of you, if I missed your questions, I apologize. I will go back through the thread. I will grab any questions that I missed and I will start with them next week, I promise. One last quick note, if you are in upstate New York, Syracuse area, and you don't have plans for this weekend, this Saturday, I'm going to be doing a full day workshop in Syracuse. It's a creative portraiture workshop. I'll be doing it with oops, and the text is missing. That's not good. Anyway, it's a creative portraiture workshop. It'll be in Syracuse, New York. It's a 6-hour workshop. In fact, my makeup artist that many of you are used to seeing in my videos, Monet, she will be there doing both hair and makeup, and she'll also be my model for the day. So you can find all that information on my website. But for now, gang, thanks again. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for caring. And thanks for shooting. I sincerely believe photographers do not hear the word thank you enough. And I don't mean because you're watching me. Of course, I appreciate you watching me. But seriously, thank you for being photographers. Thank you for caring, for creating, and for making this whole industry sustainable for all of us. So I appreciate that. I hope you appreciate, you know, the ability that we have to be able to do these things and communicate this way. So please, you guys know the drill, all right? I hope to see you back here next week. And in the meantime, please remember these.
Thanks for watching another live episode of TogChat. Now, pick up that camera and shoot something, because your best shot is your next shot. So keep learning, keep thinking, and keep shooting. Adios.